Welcome to Spiritual and Sassy, the podcast where we bleed deep soul wisdom with authentic confidence.
We're your host,
Tressa
and Myra, and together we'll explore the mystical side of life, challenge societal norms and programming, and embrace our inner power.
Whether you're on a spiritual journey or just love a little sass, this space is for you.
Let's dive in and light up the world with a little more love.
Here we are.
I feel like I'm a late night talk show host.
This is going to be a good one, Myra.
Oh my gosh. Y'all,
Yeah.
if you thought you liked us, y'all gonna really love us.
I said this is going to be real and raw. I just went on a walk with my dog and I was telling Myra, I'm pretty sure I took in a bug or something. It's living in my throat right now. It's right here. I can feel it. Little son of a bitch, get down.
He's
And
like, nah.
he decided to go in my mouth. I didn't.
Oh no. He's like,
you know?
I live here now. Ha ha ha.
You
You're
know,
like
it
the
feels
lady
like he
who
took up residency.
Yeah, you're like the lady who swallowed a fly, the children's book, and then swallowed a cake, and then like somehow you swallow a dog. You know, like it gets crazier and crazier.
Oh, it does? I'm not familiar
Oh
with
my
that, but
gosh. Well, I
great.
will after this I will catch you up because it's a whole thing. She swallows like a bug or a fly or something, and then it just keeps going and it gets crazier and crazier and crazier, and then she swallows like a house or something. I don't even know. Like it's just ridiculous, but it's a good one. It's a good one. Yeah. And then I just moved, and so like I'm alone right now while Draco's here. He's asleep, but Blake took Nola out because I'm like disoriented. I don't even know. I'm not even in my space where I will be, recording.
Yeah.
And I'm using like an ottoman and a box, and I like am holding my mic for anyone that watches the videos. Like honestly, at this point, I think it's worth just watching the videos because
Yeah,
they
this
just
is
get
good.
weirder. Yeah,
They get stranger and stranger.
and stranger. And so I'm like holding the mic. I feel like, yeah, I don't
This is
even
real
know.
life, people.
Yeah, this is it. And then my dog might make an appearance. He's scooting around, and this is life.
I'm
This
at
is
my
life
house
today.
too, so who knows if you'll hear Tug and Lewis in the background. It's a crapshoot.
Yeah. This is what it is. If y'all could smell me through this, it would be even better. Like I've never sweated so much in my life, and it like got up to 100 degrees. And add in the humidity. Oh my gosh, like this is probably one of the hottest days I've ever personally experienced in a really, really, really long time. And yeah, this poor boy, he helped us move today. And then I'll shut up about this and we can talk about cool things. This poor sweet kid, and maybe this does help in the episode. He came out and helped. And at one point he just laid down and cried because he was so miserable. I'm not joking. Like he just laid down and started weeping. Like I think
Did you know this person?
Yeah, so my uncle is a saint, and anyone that's met my uncle, he's moved me all 1,005. I feel like a transient at this point. Like, I
Yeah,
don't
okay.
know
Your
what's
uncle that
wrong
came and
with
helped you
me.
move.
Yeah, he's moved me everywhere. We're real fun people. But he's awesome. And then his really good longtime friend, and it's a family friend of ours. And honestly, his name's Lot. He is family. He's amazing. And like he's Honduran, and so a lot of his family are here now, and they're the best people in the world. You want to talk about kindness and community? Like this is where it's at. Like without even batting an eye, they're always there. There's no questions asked. Today was miserable. Today was absolutely horrible. And I've moved in many different weather conditions, including snow. I've done it all. And this was brutal. This was really brutal. And what's crazy is I had even less stuff. I had already cleaned out, and this wasn't even the stuff. It was just the immense, like I felt sick, Anywho, so this sweet boy he works with Tony and Lot. My uncle owns a landscaping company. So he's used to be outside mowing,
Yeah.
but this was like next level. So this poor boy, compared to mowing, was laying like literally in the grass just weeping today. And I'm like, I mean, same bro, but I can't cry with you. Like I gotta keep going. Like I can feel the lactic acid in my body. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I'm like, like
I get it.
like
Yeah.
I'm cement. Yeah. So
Well, good for him.
yeah.
When he needs to take a break and shed a tear, good job. Let it out.
I was proud. Yeah, and then the poor boy shut the U-Haul up, and all of a sudden these girls were not paying attention. I feel like I was watching Final Destination, and he like turned the corner, and they just starts flying down the road, and like the wind blew his hat off from the car. Like that's how close. And then he just looked at
my
me
gosh.
and went, "Ah," and then walked off. It's like whatever. I wanted to die anyways, I guess, in this heat. He's like, wow. And I'm just sitting there like, did I just witness that? So it's been real eventful. So
It's been a
real
day.
fun. It's been a day. It's been a freaking like month, but it's really been a day. That's for sure.
Well, we'll see how this goes today because for you out there in listener land, we tried to record this week's episode yesterday
Yeah.
and the powers that be were not having it. Just wasn't happening. So nothing was working. My computer wasn't working. It just was like, nope, ain't happening. So we thought, okay, we're not going to fight this. We'll just roll with the energy and see what happens. So
Yeah.
here we are. At least our
Here we
platform's working. My computer so far seems to work. Our mic, we can hear each other.
Yeah, finally. I can't wait to edit it. It'll be great.
Yeah, that's going to be great. You can do it tomorrow on your flight.
Yeah, I know. That's the beauty of I'm going on a work trip, those in Listenerland. I'm meeting my coworkers for the first time in person. And I've never gone on a work trip that's not with like Tressa or my previous employment. So this is very interesting to me. Like I don't even know. I'm not nervous because I'm cool with, I'm great in weird situations. And I've gone to conferences alone. Like I'm okay. Like I'm great. But I'm like, this is gonna be weird, just like seeing these people in person. And, it's been a really weird like week with work because I work with a really small team. There's like 20 of us for the whole, I work in a larger company, but the branch and division I'm in, there's only 20 of us, so I mean, not even 20. Like I think it's under 20 because we couldn't even make a Chick-fil-A order for the on-site. Like they said it's too small of a team or something. So I have to like write a DoorDash
No
order
Chick-fil-A
down.
for you.
Yeah, they're like, I'm sorry, too small. We don't want your money. Businesses are funky, guys. But yeah, so I'm excited to go. And like when Tressa mentioned talking about kindness, for tonight, like was loving it, as soon as she said it, because like I think really we could all use a little more kindness and we could exhibit a lot of kindness. And, like I have no idea what's going to happen this week. I'm sure it'll be great. But, that's the one thing that I know I can be is kind because like a lot of what we're going to talk about are processes. And for anyone out there that's listening, that is a part or that's listening, that's a part of the corporate world, processes are constantly talked about, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
like the lingo. How do we refine our processes? There's like 101 processes, but what works? But it's not really even processes in my mind. It's the execution of processes. Is people don't want to execute. And I've learned that. And it's not any different in many environments that I've been in because there are great processes. And processes can always be fixed and changed, right? But it's the execution. And so like on this onsite, they want us to really get together and talk and like share how we feel. And, I met with my director this morning and he seriously is honestly kind is like the number one word to describe this man. I've never met a nicer guy in my life. And, he was talking because he's like, he's like, I really want to get aligned. And it was really cute. Like, he's like, I want to be aligned because I'm his only employee attending. Like, he has other employees, but I'm the only one from his group. I got selected, whatever. I was chosen. I'm the chosen, And he's like, when we talk about it, we should say this. And I'm like, no, you're right. It's all about delivery. And like that we're going to be talking about really hard stuff, like obviously things aren't working for some reason, whether it be I can always be better. Either I'm not executing like I need to be, or they're not executing like they need to be, or someone's not communicating, or in this case, I'm doing the job of like 4 people right now, which happens a lot, and we are lean and that's happens. But, it made me think when he's talking, like I can say 1,000,001 things, but what is my delivery? Like, how am I going to talk about this to people? And, I mentioned on a couple episodes ago where I talked about like the tongue and like words. And I used to pride myself that I could hurt people's feelings with words. Like I used to be like, yeah, man, like just wait, just,
Yeah.
I can get you, that's terrible. But, just being honest, like that was a thing that, we talked about before too, like getting a little high of getting back on people or like, oh yeah, I stuck it back to you, and I was thinking when he was telling me, well, I want to say what needs to be said because I am going to advocate for myself. But like part of growth and part of my journey and what I've been going through is learning that coming at it in a reactive way or coming at it in a harsh way or using you statements or, using like saying, well, you don't do this, or you do this, or you could do this or whatever isn't the answer. The best way that I can go into this is through kindness and talking about like what I've noticed and what I think I could do better and what as a group, like, talking about myself, starting with myself first. Like, I
Yeah.
could be doing this, or I think this would work, or see where I'm at instead of coming at people just in a hurtful way.
Yeah. I get that. It's you have to have a lot of awareness to do that.
Yeah.
I get it. So as a leader, and you've heard me say this,
Hmm.
I always say that being kindness is being clear.
Hmm.
Sorry, the little fly is still with me, or whatever the hell it is. So I'm just going to do the whole episode with this little frog in my throat, if you will. But sometimes clearness, even if you're being kind, isn't well received because they're not
Hmm.
hearing something that they desire to hear.
Yeah.
Like the truth is kindness, and being transparent is kind,
Hmm.
but a lot of times the reception isn't what they want to hear. And so, whether it's in your personal life or your professional life, I think what you're saying, the delivery, doing it from a kind heart, doing it with a good intention, doing it through the I am statement, and then not being attached to receiving a specific outcome is important.
Yeah.
But part of why I thought about kindness, I'd written this down a couple weeks ago. And it came, I've shared that my grandma fell and
Hmm.
broke her femur, and we were in the hospital with her for a while, and now she's in a rehabilitation center. But when we were in the hospital, when she got taken into the emergency room, somehow they'd lost her glasses.
Hmm.
And then she was admitted, and several days she didn't have her glasses, which she really was stressed about. And so my mother-in-law had already gone to the ER and asked about these glasses and got told they don't have
Yeah.
them, blah, blah, blah. Well, then the next day she was asking my husband and I, so we went back down there, and it was so interesting how rude the lady was. And I was
Hmm.
like, like, how hard is it to just be kind in that situation?
Yeah.
Like, I understand you don't have them, but like, instead of being mean and rude and really reactive, you could just be kind in the moment. And she just didn't have the capability of it. And I started to think, like, what makes us as individuals, because I have been the same way. Like, I have
Yeah.
been reactive and not kind in situations. And what is it that makes us that way? Like, what is it within ourselves that prevents us from offering this generosity of kindness to people?
Yeah.
I really started to think about it, because one of the things that's a fundamental belief of mine is you can never give something to somebody else that you're not giving to yourself.
Hmm.
So it kind of made me go down the path of, how kind are we with ourselves?
Yeah.
Are you really being kind with yourself? Because we have so many people out there that have this deep, brutal internal dialogue, right, around themselves.
Hmm.
So of course it's going to be harder and harder for them to show kindness to somebody else, because they can't even do it for themselves.
Oh, yeah. And I love that so much. I was just talking to, honestly, people took a shot with me saying I love that so much. I heard it after I said it. I'm like, God, I say that a lot. But I really do. Because when you're talking, I was thinking, and I am listening, because we talk about active listening too, not trying to think while someone's talking. But with the podcast, it's a dialogue. You're thinking while
Yeah.
we're talking.
Yeah.
But you're so right. I have someone in my life who is just seriously angry all the time. And a lot of it is because they still live in victim energy. And I know that, and I know that they are really, really, really struggling to move past some of their experiences in life. They're very much in the life happens to me, not for me mentality, and they are really, really stuck in that, and their delivery for everything is so brutal. And they interact with my daughter a lot, and I have to tell my daughter, I'm like, because they're like, why are they so mean? Like, I just don't understand. And I said, what I say is we shouldn't be mean to other people. And it's not okay that this person's mean to you. And they're not mean to her. Their delivery is just very harsh. Like, it's just,
Mhm.
it's not. And my daughter is very sensitive,
Yeah.
and this person really just doesn't care. Like, they speak to everyone exactly the same. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter, elder, child, whoever
6-year-old
you
or a
are. It doesn't
70-year-old.
matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
get it the same way.
Yeah.
And, I told my daughter, I said, yes, there are things in their life that's happened, but, this isn't a reason to treat people this way. But I know every day they are in an internal battle 24/7. You can see it in their face. And I can even see myself in ways, not even from the victim side, but the really like snappy, harsh delivery. And it's like, if you just, it's just so crazy being an outsider listening to this person, and I don't want to record the person and be like, hey, you should listen to themselves, but it really might change their mind. If you actually like took a minute to listen to how you respond, how you react, the words you say, the way you choose to respond, when in that instant, if you were just kind or just like took a beat to relay this information in a different way. And, I agree with you 100%. A lot of it is they're not kind to themselves.
Yeah.
There's no self-love. We talk about that a lot in the episodes. And, there's other people in my life and they are, the number one thing that I can see going on is there's just a lack of self-love. And ultimately, I think it boils down to that too, where it's if you just took this second to respond, you could ultimately impact or change someone's minute or day or moment, like it's a make or break kind of situation for some people, I mean, that's a little dramatic, but it could be. You don't know. You don't know what someone's going through or what's going on in their lives. And if you just took that second to say something in a kind way, it could totally change what's happening for this other individual that's receiving the information.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because we talk a lot about, I say hurt people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about this individual and giving themselves self love. And I heard something the other day that resonated with me because sometimes people are like, what does that even look like? Like,
Mm-hmm.
well, they can't, where do I start with that? I
Yeah.
think part of the way you start with it is, when we've all had people who have been in a grief situation, whether that's through
Mm-hmm.
loss, death, something tragic happened in their life, whatever it is, there's this level of
Yeah.
loss. And what have you done in that situation? We all have the component of compassion within us because 99% of people can go and hold that person, sit with them, hug them, listen to them, hold their hand, and just be in that space with them, for them in that moment. So, how often do we do that for ourselves when we feel the pain? Because we have pain. There's pain, right? Shit happens. Like, you are not always feeling great and happy, and things are not always blissful for you. So, how often, when you feel the pain and you feel the anger and you feel it in your body, do you just sit there with yourself in compassion and give it love? Give the emotion love. Like, I see you. Sometimes I say this to myself. Oh, I see you. I see you anger. I see you pain. I feel it. Sometimes you feel it most of the time you do, because if you're paying attention in your body. And I just sit with it. Like, I'm just going to give you love, but I'm going to feel the emotion. And I think that's part of learning to let yourself know that will not, in the human experience, you will not go without those other emotions, right? But letting yourself have compassion in it instead of like going into that brutal energy of, well, that's stupid to feel that way. Why would you feel angry?
Mm-hmm.
Or it's not going to do you any good anyway. Toughen up. How often do you tell yourself those things instead of just holding compassion for yourself and letting it be, just be,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
just sending it love? Like, that's where things start to really shift, I believe, is when you start to do that for yourself, and then you can do it more and more for others. And that's kind of like, I think that's kind of a meditation in itself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big proponent of meditation, but that is just being present with your emotion, which is a form of meditation, right? Because you're
Yeah.
feeling it, you're being with it, you're not judging it, you're just there.
Yeah, I like that comparison too, because we talk about, like, we've talked about part of, the mindfulness. I'm like, what is that word? Being mindful, and we talk
Mm-hmm.
about mindfulness and meditation of being aware of smells and sight
Mm-hmm.
and feelings and taste, but that's just another component of it is your emotions, being aware of the way you feel. And I mean, I totally agree. And I think, I've heard people share words like, oh, that was so silly of me to cry, or like, oh, that was so ridiculous for how I acted. Well, you acted away for a reason, or reacted away for a reason, or you felt an emotion for a reason. I've joked before on episodes too, and I joke in my personal life that I've become more emotional as I get older. Like I cry all the time, and it's not even I'm not walking around crying, me, but I'm like I get very sentimental,
Hmm.
but it's because I've changed the way that I've always really tried to let people know how I feel, but I've changed the way that I deliver it. It's a very intentional message, a thought, and I really think about how I feel about people. And that I think goes back to, being sitting in your emotions about others too, and
Hmm.
sitting in your own emotions like, okay, well, I feel this way. I feel this immense amount of love. Well, what is it like to love myself? Because I don't sit in love for myself. I don't
Yeah.
sit and feel that. I don't sit and feel that emotion for myself I'm getting better at it, but it's not very often, and it's shifted the way that I'm even feel like emotionally around the word love and what does love really mean, and that emotion. And, when I'm angry, I just think like, why am I angry? And what am I angry about? Like, what is it really about? And then I can help kind of pinpoint back, and it's more of being more self-aware and why I'm feeling the feelings that I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And um, yeah.
Well, that brings up a point that I had a coach one time tell me this, and it actually played out today for me. Because I've known this
Mhm.
for years, and it's been a hard concept for me to understand. But he said the problem is never the problem. The problem is never
Mhm.
the problem. And so tonight, I went for a walk with my dog. I'd had a pretty good day for all intents and purposes, right? Went for a walk with my dogs,
Mhm.
followed my friend that stays with me. Anywho, came home.
Your new
My
personality.
new personality in my throat chakra. Lovely. Welcome to the party, friend. Anywho, came home, was watering my flowers. Yesterday it was so windy, I had to move some of my flowers over because they were blowing over. Okay, got them all reset up. Was watering my flowers. I was pulling my hose around to the one side. I do this all the time. And all of a sudden, my
Mhm.
hose knocked my big planter over. All the dirt is on my deck, right? All the dirt, all the flowers out. I got so
Yeah.
pissed, so fucking pissed, Myra. I like picked up the thing that was holding it and I went to throw it.
Yeah.
It hit me in that moment. The problem isn't about the flowers. It's not
Yep.
about the fucking flowers. I had
No.
a situation earlier with a client that really upset me, and that was the
Mhm.
problem. My emotion about that
Yeah.
situation. The flowers were the catalyst that gave me permission to feel the anger, right? That was the
Oh yeah.
catalyst. It wasn't about the goddamn flowers. It wasn't about the dirt. It wasn't about any of that,
No.
So it
Mm-mm.
really hit me in that moment. I remembered his words. The problem is never the problem. Now, if you would have been
Mhm.
sitting there with me, you would have assumed you probably, if it was me on the other side, I would have been like, oh, we can fix this. It's just dirt. You would have been trying to fix
Yeah.
the situation about the flowers, but the
Yeah.
flowers aren't the issue, right? It's what
No.
happened earlier in the day that I haven't yet really felt. I've taken it in, I haven't
Oh
really
yeah.
felt through it. So the
Yeah.
problem
I think
truly isn't the problem. It's digging deeper.
no, and it's not. And I think either you shared it with me or you used to have it on a sticky note.
My
But
sticky note.
I don't know, but it's in my head. Like it's one of those Tressa philosophies that I totally like. No, it never leaves my mind.
Yeah.
it's one of those things that I learned it and I feel it and I'm like, you're right, 100%. And it is really changed. That statement alone has changed the way I interact with others too. For example, I've said this couple times tonight, but I mean it in the way that when people say things to me, it doesn't spark the emotions that I would use that I may have reacted with, like in anger or being mean or hurtful, because I think about the problem is never really the problem in that capacity too. I know that if, for example, during the graduation shit we talked about several, this is a great time. My niece was super snappy. Okay. Like we had rolled and rolled and rolled one day with and I very rarely react. I don't know who I am these days. I don't like really get super mad about things. Like I kind of just like, nah, whatever. I really like let it kind of happen, especially with when it involves people. Unless it's with Blake, I guess. I don't know. He hits certain buttons. It's just. But with my niece, and I give a lot of grace to her too, and I've shared that in many episodes. And one day though, it just was like I asked her if she was okay. There's in a very annoying way people can say, "Are you okay?" And I get it. And if you just hear it in the right tone, it just can send you to the next planet. You know what I mean? Like it just boom. Well, I looked at her and I'm like, "Are you okay?" Like I looked at her as like, "Are you okay?" Like it wasn't even like my voice didn't even have the fluctuation. It was just like, "Are you okay?" Like I can't even usually because it's like, "Are you okay?" But it was just like statement, right? Boy, she lost it, and then I lost it. I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa," and I'm like, "You can just leave, honestly. Like, I don't even need this in my life. Like, just bye, I guess. Like, I'm not doing this." And then I sat down and I looked at her and I'm like, "What is going on?" Like, you reacted to me asking that question just super hardcore, like really, really, really hardcore. And obviously something is going on. Like I'm not even trying to be that person that keeps nagging and asking what's wrong. Like the way she reacted, and it wasn't even the fact I was asking the question. It wasn't the fact that the wind blew in the right direction or the tire was flat or whatever the hell happened that day. It was about that stupid party. That I mean, this ridiculous party and all the pressures of the party and moving on and all these things and her parents and then just all the emotions. And in that one pivotal moment, she reacted and I blew up. And I didn't need to blow up, I had no reason to. But that's just one small example in the last, I mean, I don't know, people always, there's always little rifts and exchanges with people, but it's really helped me to think about, okay, well, what had happened that day or what's really going on with people or like what's really, because in that moment I could have just thought, oh, I'm being annoying, I'm just nagging her to death and, or
Hmm.
that parental question, what I'm
Yeah.
saying. It's like that person can ask you the question in that moment and then you just boom, but I knew that there was something more and that there were another layer to it. And, I really worked on how I respond when people are in those moments. And I definitely felt angry. I totally went there with her. And then I'm thinking, well, why am I even reacting this way either? But the problem is never really the problem. It has really, really changed the way that I've thought about my own feelings and emotions and what I'm going through, but the way maybe what someone else is going through also.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, we kind of started talking in this episode, and you made the point of it's one thing to say something, but it's a totally different thing to do something.
Hmm.
Your actions are always speaking louder than your words. It's like, I would rather somebody not. One thing I really try hard not to do is apologize unless I have something to apologize for. But if I choose to apologize for it, I better be ready to take action to change it. Because an
Hmm.
apology doesn't mean anything if you're not going to take accountability and have the change behind the apology. And I know people who apologize like it's like part of their dialogue. Like they start their sentence with "I'm sorry" before you even know what you're gonna hear. It's
Me.
unbelievable.
It's
Do you do
bad.
that?
No, I've tried so hard. I've tried really hard. And you're right. You're right. And I blame society. I don't know. Or like, how we say like, and I know I use it in my dialogue and it's not great, but it was a big deal at one point, right? People were like, see, I said like, they're like, you got to stop. That doesn't sound good. That doesn't sound professional. And it doesn't sound the best. If I was really trying to
Mhm.
do a professional speech, it's not the greatest. But I feel like I'm sorry or oh sorry is become a part of my dialogue. And
Mhm.
it started honestly in my professional world. It just don't remember saying sorry so much. I just don't remember and I feel like, I have a lot of feelings around it, but especially being a woman in corporate. I felt like I had to apologize all the time, and I still do, obviously, and it bleeds into my personal dialogues. Like it's not even my corporate dialogue or my professional or whatever. It's bleeding into my personal dialogue. And, I feel like it could even be in the past, like I said before, if I believe in truth. I believe in truth. As a human being, Myra, one of my philosophies is being as honest as I can possibly be. Like Tristan knows this. Even, working personal, I'll tell on myself. I'll be like, listen, dude, I screwed up. I might have reacted this way, or I might have said this, or hey, I really didn't do this the right way. because I take accountability for what I've done, and then I'd rather address it and then move forward. And also, I believe in truth. When someone comes to me and they really want to talk about something, we're going to talk about it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for them and make them feel good about something when it's really, what they want to hear, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't usually, if someone's going to come to me and ask me a question, we're going to talk about it from all the angles possible, but we're not going to just tailor it to what they want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really stand by these things. Well, when I answer questions or do things or have done stuff, especially in the professional world, in corporate, I felt like I maybe needed to apologize to soften it. Like, oh, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry, or oh, I'm sorry, or it's bad. And now I don't know how to get rid of it. And it's not just me. And you said it, people start their sentences with it. And I don't start my sentences with it. I hope I'm not there. Maybe I am. But it was such a call out that my newest boss told me. He's like, I really don't know why you're always apologizing. He's like, what are you apologizing for? And it slapped me in the face. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I wanted to say sorry,
I'm sorry.
I was like, I'm sorry.
Sorry for being sorry.
Yeah. And so it's like we've watered the word down. But I've thought about it too, because I've heard you say this before. I've heard other people say this before. We have a mutual friend who caught herself saying I'm sorry a lot, especially in corporate too. And she like made it a goal of like, hey, I don't want to say I'm sorry, and
And she doesn't,
the more, yes,
unless
she
she
doesn't.
truly has something to be sorry for, and take
Yes,
accountability.
yes,
So I think that's, you got to start to kind of pay more attention to what the cause is.
yep,
It's,
yep,
something there for you to explore. I did want to say, though, we get used to certain dialogues, like we're just talking about,
yeah,
I'm sorry. And even what happened with your niece, the reason she reacted to that question is when you ask somebody, are you okay?
hmm,
It's like the exposed nerve has just been touched, right?
yeah,
Because they're like, if somebody's asking that, I'm being seen. My vulnerability's
yep,
there. They
yeah,
know already I'm not okay, right? There's no other reason. You could feel it on
mm,
her. So, what if you would have done this instead? I just want you to play this out, and maybe it wouldn't have been different. But think about this, if you wouldn't have used the words, because words are just bullshit most of the time,
hmm,
right? And you would have walked up and said, I just really feel like I need a hug from you. And you would have just
yeah,
embraced her.
yeah,
Could the outcome have still been the same? She would have felt this safety. Maybe she would have started to cry. Maybe she would have felt a safe space to release it because you already knew that she needed something, right?
yeah,
You wanted her to express through words. And as soon as you said that, the exposed nerve was there. And she was like, I'm going to protect myself from that
yep.
vulnerability. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
so I've
100%.
really tried to pay attention to that and not ask the question like I would have normally, but just
Yeah,
hold space or say, and I put it on me sometimes, like, man, I could really use a hug or, something like that. Or I would love to share something with you because then I'm being vulnerable and then they have a safe space to be vulnerable without that exposed nerve being so touchy.
yeah. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. What's so interesting is I have found myself, like I mentioned earlier in the episode, the way I'm expressing my feelings towards other. I love how you just, phrase that. I'm putting it back on myself. And I've been putting it back on myself a lot because I have, a lot of people and, we see people every day and we interact with people every day who are going through various levels of things and you can sense it and you can feel it and it's there. They hint it around. And you're right, instead of asking these questions that maybe hit a nerve or trigger a reaction or hit something, you're right. It would have been better just to just give her a hug or like, hey, I just want you to know that I love you. And, um, it goes back to, made me think about what he wrote in her graduation thing. He didn't
Mm-hmm.
give her any advice. He just told her, I
Yeah.
love you. I love you, and
Yeah.
there's a space for you here. And that meant more to her than anything anyone else wrote.
Yep.
Anything anyone gave her, that was the one thing she was so like, I cannot believe someone said that to me. But it's true, and you're right. And it goes back to that, what action am I putting behind this, and
Mm-hmm.
I really do my best. And heck, this even goes to parenting, instead of freaking going the rounds and rounds when Nola's being very sentimental or emotional about things. And, sometimes, I just hug her. I'm like, hey, you know what? I love you. And I just give her a hug. And then it opens a new dialogue. There's a whole different thing. Then she starts talking like, hey, mom, I really felt this in the moment. Or, hey,
Yeah.
da da da. And you're right, because it shows, she needed a feeling, an action from me, that exchange versus me asking her to give it to me first. So,
Hmm.
and you're 100% right. And I feel that that's something we could all, that goes back to being kind, like
Yeah.
it's an emotion you're putting back on yourself instead of expecting something from someone else.
Yeah. But it starts with self-kindness, right? You're not able
Yep.
to be vulnerable unless you're kind with yourself. You're always on guard.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's where your niece lives with that exposed nerve all
Yeah.
the time because she
Yeah.
hasn't yet given herself that compassion. So you have to start with that self compassion, right? And then you have the strength or the ability. I don't know if the word strength is, but it's true. You are strong enough to allow that level of vulnerability for yourself. And when you give vulnerability, you get vulnerability back, right? It's
Yeah.
not, it's expressing your vulnerability, just like what you said happens with Nola. And then she feels like, oh, I can share with my mother. You're not
Yeah.
asking her questions or interrogating her. That's different. You're letting her know your emotion first, and then she feels a safe space to share it.
Yeah.
One of the other things I wanted to touch on is in the vein of kindness is just the concept of holding grudges, because
Mm-hmm.
in the world we live in, there's so much on that level. I mean,
Yeah.
you think about the world level of grudges, the collective consciousness of
Mm-hmm.
grudges, in your own country, grudges, then you go down to your family and
Oh yeah.
there's just
Oh
all
yeah.
these levels. And it's almost like, do we feel like, I always wonder this, do we feel like if we don't hold on to the grudge, that somehow they've gotten away with something? Like that, they've
Yeah.
hurt us, and if I don't hold on to that anger and that distaste and that hatred for you or whatever it is, that they win. And then I started thinking, but the opposite is truly true. When you
Oh
hang
yeah.
on to that, it's poison in your own body. They are winning. They are absolutely winning because
Yep.
you're holding on to that poison, that deep seated emotion right around them. And you truly are giving them your power in that moment. Like I think about that with the
Gosh,
grudges.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, the holding on to a grudge is just you giving them the power. You're giving them the win. You're giving them all your energy and effort, and they're probably not even
Mm-hmm.
giving a shit. You know what I mean?
No.
Like I've I saw there's this common meme going around, and it's when you're talking saying that it made me think about it, where it's like, could you imagine hating me? And meanwhile, I'm like planting flowers, or like, could you imagine this person sitting around hating me and I'm over here playing with my dog, or I'm with my kids, or reading a book, or I'm being silly and, or whatever it is. And it made me think about that because it's true. Like, there are people that I'm sure have grudges against me or don't like me or I did something and I don't even know I did it. You know what I mean? Or whatever happened. Or some people just don't like people, or they have hard feelings. And I've really always tried to, goes back to that accountability thing. I really try to say, hey, you know what? I take ownership for my part, but I don't, it's not up to me for them to forgive me. And I can't expect them to forgive me. That's on them at that point.
Yeah.
But if people are holding grudges, they're just giving up their power. They're giving
Mm-hmm.
up their energy. They're giving
Yeah.
up their feelings, their thoughts. And when I had this thought earlier and it left my mind. And then when you were speaking about the collective, even being kind, holding grudges, it goes back to the oneness of our thoughts and our feelings and just being one. And think about the frequency if we turn grudges and hate into kindness and love. Think about like what our frequency would be as one and how much more powerful we would all be together in our collective.
Oh, that would be a whole different world. I
Yeah.
think that's what, some of the people I listen to. Eckhart Tolle wrote a book called The New
Hmm.
Earth, right? That is the new
Yeah.
earth.
Yep.
That energy of the collective choosing kindness, choosing love for themselves and
Yeah.
others, leading with that. It would be a completely different space, right?
Oh yeah.
Than this. I'm going to serve myself and do
Hmm.
what's best for myself above all. And then you have all these
Yep.
reasons why you do it. You validate that,
Exactly.
right? There's
Yeah.
always a validation to it. So
Yeah.
it's unfortunate, but I think we are moving into a new earth, a different energy. It's being talked about, it's being seen.
Oh,
How long
100%.
that transition's going to be remains to be seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, see. So, well, I think we're coming up on time. My throat's managed to make it through this whole thing.
I feel so bad. We feel like we're the Hot Mess Express episode.
Yeah, it kind
So,
of was the Hot Mess Express, but
yeah.
good content still.
Yeah, it's been great. And and it's so fun. I feel like there's so much noise in the world and just really, really, really turning inward and really, really showing love to yourself, kindness to yourself, your environment, planting those seeds. We've talked about before, people feel your energy. You don't have to say anything, they feel
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah.
You can feel when someone else is going through things. They can feel when you're going through things or when you don't love yourself or when you're not being kind to yourself. Your people feel it, your children feel it, your family, your friends, people around you, the way you radiate, the way you present yourself, and really, really just turning inward and reflecting on you and taking care of you and bringing safety to you and what does safety mean to you and how you can just really enhance the you in your environment, and then it just starts to propel outward and it really, really changes your frequency. And when you're kind to yourself, you're at a high frequency, but when you're kind to others, you're also at a high frequency. It's really divine to treat yourself. We say to treat others how you want to be treated. Yeah, well, should you be treating yourself with love and kindness? It's true. It's the golden rule, but you got to look at yourself too.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. That energy vibrates out. It's a ripple effect, but it has to
Yeah.
start with you. And you have to
Hmm.
start with the kindness of self, and then the kindness of others. But one
Yep.
of the things you said is go inward. And I really, truly believe that. I don't think you get there without that. I just, we call it meditation for lack of a better word, and people get freaked out when I say meditation because all meditation is taking a few minutes a day to just be present with your breath. Be present with your
Yep.
body. Put your fingertips together and feel your fingertips together. It's
Hmm.
feeling the clothes on your skin. It's just
Hmm.
bringing yourself back to self.
Yeah.
Doing a scan of your body. It can be a couple minutes. It doesn't have to be, you're not going to shut down your mind. Your thought will come in. Let the thought come in. Let it roll. But just bringing yourself back to the breath in the moment. Bringing yourself back
Yeah.
to something tangible. And then doing that with intention. And then doing little like check-ins throughout the day. You start to train yourself with it. If you're in a traffic jam, take a couple of deep breaths when you're in the traffic jam. Feel your palms on your steering wheel, like really be present with something. That's just a
Yep.
little form of meditation. And I really do believe that you got to start to do that to train yourself. But one thing I would love to put out there for you and I to do over the next week until our next episode and for listeners would be like really put the intention into every day that you're going to be kind to yourself and to others. And then
Hmm.
recognize how you do, like it won't be perfect. Because if I could
Yeah.
just say that, snap my fingers, and it would happen, I would be a bazillionaire, and I'm
Yeah.
not. But the more that you can recognize it, and when you do get reactive, or you do get mean, or you do, then you have a little bit to reflect on. Where
Yeah.
was I in that moment? What caused that? Just like
Hmm.
tonight with my flowers, it gave me a minute to reflect on. This isn't about the flowers, man. This is not about the flowers. It's
Yeah.
about your energy about this other situation and your emotion around it. And so you can start to let yourself really understand where it's coming from. Were you expecting something from somebody else that you didn't get? Were you judging yourself? Were you wanting that response to make you feel a certain way, an external
Yeah.
response to make you feel a certain way? You can start to have that dialogue and that awareness around it.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
all
Well, we'll see
right.
how not
We
I am
made
in
it,
Florida.
Myra. We made it.
We did.
Well, until next time, keep your vibrations way high.
And stay sassy.